You want me to start it or do you want to start
I
it?
don't care. Go for it.
All right. So welcome to our challenge group call. I got to look at the date here. It is September 19th, and we are going to be talking about containers. We know that there are a lot of newer members in the group and even a lot of veteran members in the group, and it's always good to have a refresher on what the containers are for and how to use them and how to find, meal plans and things like that and tracking them. And I know that starting out, it can be very overwhelming. And so just kind of going back to the basics and what each one's for, whether it's your fruits or veggies or proteins, and then kind of how to make sure that you can try to fit them all in your day and stay on track with them. So first of all, I'm going to talk about, I'm Renee, by the way. For those of you that don't know me, I should probably introduce myself. I have been in using the containers, I guess you would say, or starting with my journey for about 16 months or so. And although I don't necessarily use these every single meal, every single day now, because I am a little more familiar with them, I did use them religiously in the beginning and still continue, at least once a month I go back to the container and measure and make sure that I'm on track with my nutrition, because that's probably the most important part with wanting to maintain weight loss and maintain your results and progress, is to make sure that you're kind of double checking and getting those containers in each day. So yours should have come with little labels. And then the booklet that yours came with, it probably looks different if you signed up with the All Access Challenge Pack. Yours is going to look a little different. I signed up with 21, or I had this from 21 Day Fix a couple years ago. Yeah, they all look a little bit different. And this is like, I need a new one really bad because you can't even open it because I turned my Keurig on without a coffee mug, and so it's like totally ruined. But I can kind of see the pages. But it tells you what the green container's for, what the purple container's for. So like your green is for your vegetables, your purple is for your fruits, red is for protein, and yellow is for carbs. That's our favorite, mine anyways. And then the blue is for your healthy fats, so like your avocado, hummus, and then the orange is for like salad dressings and seeds. And you can put the little labels on there to help you remember at first. You'll usually get the hang of it pretty quickly. And then that's when you go to the nutrition guide and you look in there to see what everything is under that list. So like, here's all your veggies. And there might be veggies that aren't on this list, and that's okay. And they usually say that the top is like higher in nutrients and things like that. So they usually say to try to kind of stick with those ones. You want to mix and match, now and then. And of course, some people are just not veggie lovers, and there's only a couple that they can handle, and that's totally fine too. The nice thing about these, meal plans and these lists and everything is it is not a one size fits all. Everybody's a little bit different. You're going to like something that maybe somebody else doesn't like, and vice versa. So you can kind of figure out how to fit your needs. Another thing is, if you are having a hard time fitting all the containers in, if you are drinking Shakeology, that's one awesome way to get in some extra containers, is to throw some spinach in there, throw some fruit in there, and you have 2 servings right there. There's 2 containers you can check off your list, and you don't even taste the spinach in there. I know some girls use kale or like, even the spring mix, things like that to get extra veggies. And again, you don't even taste it. Another place to find the information, if you don't have this guide, if you don't have a hard copy, and I am going to screen share here to show you. Okay, so we got to move this thing okay. I'm going to go to Beachbody On Demand for those of you that have that. If you don't have Beachbody On Demand and you signed up with a program, then it should have a nutrition guide, a hard copy. And if you don't have any of that, please contact your coach and let them know so that we can try and get you something of a nutrition guide depending on what program you're doing right now. And we'll make sure that we get that for you. Okay, so when you go in here, you'll find all the programs. Depending on whatever program you're doing, each one comes with its own nutrition guide. I personally have used the 21-Day Fix nutrition plan for most programs that I've done, whether I've done Insanity, whether I've done PiYo, just because it's familiar to me. And like I said, it can be overwhelming learning a whole new program or a whole new thing when you're not used to that. And I just kind of listen to my body too with the program. If it's a higher intensity program, sometimes I'll add an extra protein container, an extra veggie container or fruit, depending on, you know, whether I'm feeling like I need that extra energy. So if you go into whichever program, we'll just go into 21-Day Fix because it's a pretty well-known program. You click on that and you go to Program Materials. And then you'll go down to the eating plan right here. And it's basically a digital copy of the nutrition guide. It shows you all the lists. It shows you what each container stands for. It kind of explains the nutrition program and why it is the way that it is. So it has all the information. So it's got kind of a quick little cheat sheet here that you can see. And then it has the not the measurement, the calculations to figure out which bracket you're in. So you kind of figure out your weight, multiply that, and then you add, you know, what you're burning, and then subtract if you're wanting to lose weight. And then it tells you which bracket or which plan you'll be in. And then depending on, you know, your calories, if it comes out to below 1,200, you just stick with plan A. If it comes to above, you know, the highest, you just stick with this plan right here. If you're maintaining and you've been doing this a while, you're not trying to lose weight, but you're trying to maintain your weight, then usually you'll bump up a bracket from what it says to do. Or I think there you just don't subtract the 750, the deficit. So again, there's all this information in here. It shows you kind of how to track it. There's so many different ways you can track your containers so that you don't lose track. There's an app you can download on your phone, 21-Day Fix Tracker app. I printed, and this is not consistent with my day today, but I printed this little tracker and it has the containers on there. I think I have the other plan behind it too that shows, you know, the next bracket. I just found it online. I think I Googled 21-Day Fix Tracker and I just copy and pasted it into a Word document and blew it up. But that way you just put it in this little sheet protector and you can mark it off with a whiteboard marker every day. It's right in front of you. I am a pen and paper person, like through and through. So I like that. You know, I think that's the teacher in me. I like it right in front of me to see. There's also this meal planner that you can use, and you can put all, you know, you can plan it your breakfast, snack, lunch, afternoon snack, and dinner. And then it has the count at the top. And these are actually, this tracker is in the files section of the group. And so depending on what bracket you're in, you can go to the files section in the group. It's at the top of the group if you look from your computer. And each bracket is in there. So you can print that off. You can mark your containers off as you go. And then that way you kind of know what you have left for the day. This one is a little bit different. It doesn't have a tracker on it, but it is a meal plan guide. Again, it has like your breakfast, lunch, snacks, dinner, and then it also has a spot to write your workouts in, which is nice to have those workouts written so you know what workout you're doing each day. And then you could always just kind of tally, you know, on the top, or you could use this tracker with it or your app. It's totally up to you on what you like to do to track that. I'm gonna get out of that. So the other thing that I wanted to mention is these brackets that they give you, the meal plan that you're in, if you're in plan A, B, C, D, they're to use as a guideline. It's not it's not the end all be all if you miss a container or if you go over a container, like that's it, I quit. It just is a guideline for you to help you with portion control. So for example, if you get to the end of the day and you're like, oh my gosh, I still have a red left, but I'm so full and I'm ready for bed. So like, do I have to eat? No, you don't. Just try and do your best the next day and get your containers in. If you go over a container in a day, you go over in a red or a green or a yellow, then just try to do better the next day. Like it's totally for you to just work on portion control, and you will see results as long as you're following it as closely as you can. With the other thing too, and I've seen some people not fill it all the way. Like don't gyp yourself. I fill these suckers as full as I can get them. As long as you can still close the lid. Autumn says like fill it as much as you can and still be able to close the lid. Like for example, the veggie one, don't stick like 5 pieces of spinach in there. Like I literally stuff a huge handful in there, and then if I can stuff it and still close the lid, like that's a lot of spinach because spinach breaks down and it has very little calories anyway. So think about just being able to close the lid on it, but you still want to fill it. You don't want to gyp yourself. Again, it's not like, doesn't have to be perfect, but I see a lot of times people not filling them all the way, and then they're hungry, not too long after. So just make sure that you're trying to fill them as full, not as full as you can, but giving yourself enough food that fits in the container. And again, with the containers, like they're not meant for you to use every day, every meal for the rest of your life. Like it's for you to learn portion control. Once you have it down after, a month or two and you feel confident that you've kind of got that portion. Like for me, I don't always use the containers, but I still try to track how many portions of each serving I have. So like I still try to keep track of like veggies, like, oh gosh, I've only had 2 servings of veggies today. I really need another serving of veggies. You know what I mean? Like it's more of a portion system for you to get. And then again, I'll go back and check at least once a month and use the containers for a few days. If I feel like I'm getting a little off track with my nutrition, or if I feel like my progress is at a standstill, I'll go back and use those containers again for a few days and actually measure it out and say, oh gosh, I was not eating enough of this, or oh, I definitely was having too many of that. So it's just a good way for you to kind of track your progress, make sure that you're getting the results that you want and reaching those goals. And then I'm going to check the chat here. Yes, Jordan, you don't have to eat out of the containers. You just, pack them and throw them on your plate, and you can measure them out that way. My boys are digging through my garbage right now, trying to get gum. Awesome. Mom life. Are there any questions so far, or Jordan, Haley, Logan, anything you guys want to add?
I was going to say, I have a couple things in my head. I wish I had my pen and I would have written it down so I could remember. But as far as like what Logan said about not eating out of the containers, I think that's a really good habit to get into, because then you can start visually seeing what the portions really look like on a plate, because they're going to look completely different in a container, and you're going to when they're in a container, it doesn't seem like very much, right? And then you pour it on the plate and you're like, holy cow, I have to eat all this food. But it helps you visually see what the portions really look like. That way, when you start feeling more comfortable going out to eat and whatnot, you can be like, that's probably really 2 reds and that's only like half a green. You know what I mean? So I think that's a really good thing to do, to not eat out of the containers, honestly. But I know there's lots of people that, the ones that are working full time and things like that, it is easy just to throw it in their lunchbox in the containers. Something else I was going to say, as far as doing different programs, than 21 Day Fix, like Renee said, they all have their own eating plan. And a lot of us, like she mentioned, stick with 21 Day Fix because that's what we're used to. But one thing, and I can't remember, it was Autumn or if I heard it somewhere on the Beachbody blog. But what they suggest doing is looking in that workouts eating plan and going through that calculation. So like the hammer and chisel calculation or the T25 calculation, and whatever calories you end up with, then go back to your 21-day fix and pick the plan from those specific calories. Because not all the programs are going to burn the same amount as 21-day fix. If you want to get really particular, if you don't and you've got 21-day fix down, then that's absolutely okay just to stick with it. But that is something to think about. Sometimes when people change programs, they get frustrated because things aren't moving as quickly or whatever. And so sometimes it does take going back to that particular program's meal plan and saying, okay, let's look and see if, in this program they're requiring more reds or whatever. And something else I was going to say about kind of meal planning, and I know I was in this position, and so many of my challengers and coaches have said, I get to the end of the day and I've got these containers left and I don't want to eat them. Or, oh my gosh, I got to the end of the day and all I had left was a red and a green, or whatever it is. And one, just like Renee said, if you do and you're full, don't worry about it. Just move on to the next day. But a really good way to try to get in at least a little bit of all your containers, one is meal planning. And to meal plan, what I typically do, now I'm not an expert meal planner, but what works for me is starting with my dinner and seeing what containers are going to be used for my dinner. And then I go to my Shakeology and put my containers for my Shakeology. And then I fill in my breakfast and lunch and other snack with the rest of my containers. That way, I'll make my breakfast and maybe I get full and I don't eat it all. Well, at least I've had a little bit of all the containers I was supposed to at that time of day. Same thing with all the other meals. At least you're getting in your 4 servings of protein or whatever it is, even if you don't finish the whole serving. Does that make sense? And it kind of alleviates the end of the day, too many containers left over and not enough. So that's kind of something I've figured out along the way that has worked for me as far as making sure I at least get a little bit of everything throughout the day. I'm not typically one that feels like I'm too full to finish it all. I like to eat and I typically finish it, but I do know people run into that issue feeling like it's a lot of food, and it is a lot of food. So making sure you're spreading it out over the day has been key for me, rather than feeling like I have one huge meal and then a really small one or whatever. So those were kind of the things that popped into my head while we were chatting anyway.
Yeah, I think that is a great tip.
I'm going to piggyback on Haley's really quick, and because I do the same thing when I am planning out like my week of meal plan. And again, I'm not an expert meal planner either, and I'm not a huge, I enjoy cooking, but I don't have time to do it all day long every day of the week. So I always plan out what our dinners are going to be first for the week before I fill in anything else, just like Haley said. And I really like to try and make enough for dinner that I can use the dinner leftovers from one day for lunch the next day. So and it makes it easier to kind of keep your container count consistent. Most of my dinners typically consist of a red, a green, and probably a yellow. And so then I can kind of plan on my lunch is probably going to be about that same too. And then I just fill in the gaps, the rest of the time. I like to keep it super simple. I like to keep my shake recipe pretty consistent most of the time. I like to keep my snacks pretty much the same. It just makes it easier as a busy mom with toddlers and everything to just keep it simple and keep it consistent and have just some of those basic things like hard-boiled eggs that, 2 hard-boiled eggs count as a red, and it's something really easy to get in for the day. If it's winding down at the end of the day and, dinner's done and I do have a little bit of, I realized I haven't quite got all my containers in and I want to fit in some sort of like healthy dessert, I'll make a Greek yogurt parfait with like plain Greek yogurt, which counts as a red. And then you can throw in like some berries and some honey and stuff to kind of sweeten it up a little bit. Or another one of my favorites is slicing up an apple. I like to microwave it to make it a little soft and then put some peanut butter on there and some cinnamon. And it totally tricks your brain into thinking that it's dessert. And it's another great way, again, if it's the end of the day and you realize that you have some containers left over, it's a really easy way to get in some. I kind of have to, that plate of apples, I kind of have to guard it because if I sit down and make it, Levi is like over my shoulder trying to eat it too. And yeah, so those were some of my little tidbits. I just try and keep it as simple as possible. And if you realize that you are short one day or maybe go over a container one day, tomorrow is a brand new day. You do not subtract or add containers from the previous day. You just start completely over with a brand new slate. Okay, Renee, do you want to screen share and show those Fixate videos if you still have Beachbody On Demand pulled up?
Yes, I will share that in a second. I think Jordan was going to maybe add something real quick.
I was just going to say that whenever I first started using them, I was really scared to like mix stuff. I always felt like, this is a green container and it can only be eaten as a green container. Like I cannot mix a green with a yellow or a green with a purple. You know what I mean? Like, but if you have all the ingredients to make a salad and it uses 4 different containers, then mix it together. You don't have to eat a green by itself and a whatever by itself. I mix like broccoli and rice all the time. I don't know why that was like a thing for me, but I just felt like I had to keep everything separate.
That's perfect that you just said that, because that's one of the other things I wanted to mention that a lot of my challengers have had trouble with is like a dinner that's like a lasagna or a soup, and they're like, I don't know what to count it as because it has more than one thing in it. So that's perfect that you said that. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about is if there is a dinner and it's a recipe that has a mixture of containers, like don't stress out. Don't feel like you can't make it. If there's Gunnar, go out there and get your brother one, please. They have like these light up balloons. Okay. So if it's like a lasagna, say like zucchini lasagna or something, and you have, your ground turkey with your red sauce, and you have the layered zucchini, and you have your cottage cheese. I usually use cottage cheese instead of ricotta. I would probably count it as a green, a red, and maybe half a purple. Red sauce, marinara is usually purple. I know tomatoes seem like they would be more of a vegetable, but when they're smashed down into like sauce, they turn into a purple because of the way the sugars break down. And then, and you're not having like a whole giant purple thing of marinara in one piece of little, zucchini lasagna. And then with the layered zucchini, I would count it as a green. It might not be a full green, but I count it. And then, with your ground turkey and your cottage cheese in there, I would count it as a red. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's totally for a guideline for you to kind of get your portions under control. And as for the size, the portion size, I would go anywhere from about a cup to a cup and a half as a serving. It kind of depends on what you're having. Like if it's a chili, I might just do a cup because it's a little heavier on the yellows. The Fixate cookbook, and I'll show you that on Beachbody On Demand here in a second. I'm going to screen share again. But they have all the portions for you, and they have soups and casseroles and things like that. And they have all of the container counts on that. And the Fixate cookbook is amazing. If you don't have Beachbody On Demand, I highly recommend that cookbook. There are actually recipes that are good, that are, easy. It's not like a cookbook where you only use 1 or 2 recipes. I've used a ton of those recipes, and There's an ingredient here and there that I might leave out if it's spicy for the kids, but for the most part, that is a cookbook that is like food Bible around this house. So don't be afraid to do mixed meals, like Jordan said, like as a salad. I do strawberry spinach salad all the time with some kind of protein like chicken or tuna or, whatever. And you can just add those different things together, or adding, your carb with your veggie for dinner. Things like that is totally okay to mix and match. And again, it's different for everybody. But don't be afraid to make those meals for dinner and worry and stress about what the container counts are. And if you ever have questions about it, like, please do not hesitate to post in the group, because there are so many girls in there that can help you out and figure out the container count. Like, you can always post questions in the group, and I guarantee you'll have at least 4 or 5 comments on there trying to help you out and figure it out for you. So Jordan, I'm just watching her in the background. She's so cute. So I'm going to screen share really quick. And sorry, I was trying to read the comments just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, let's go back to this. And I'm going to go back to Beachbody On Demand. So again, those of you that have Beachbody On Demand, there is Fixate on here, and it has tons of recipes. So here's Fixate, and that's the name of the cookbook. You can order it from teambeachbody.com through your account. I think it's like $10 or $15 and totally worth every penny. Like I said, they have like tons of different recipes that are actually usable for your family. Okay, so right here, Containers 101. That is a great resource for you to watch. Autumn explains it. She goes through, how to use the containers and all of that. Going through like meal prepping, and then there's tons of recipes. And they're pretty short videos. They're pretty easy. You can also go to the details to kind of find out a little bit more about that recipe. But there's tons of recipes in here, you guys, like so many breakfast, lunch, kid-friendly stuff,
Hey, Mommy.
snacks.
Hey, Mommy.
Okay, I'll blow it up in a second, okay?
I got one too.
And
I got one too.
if you go into the program materials, then it gives you grocery lists for the different recipes. You can look at the different recipes.
I get it.
Ouch.
Hi. I get it.
Jason says hi.
Hi.
And if you go through here, they have all the recipes for you. So
You're missing the song.
there is, and
Missing the
right up here,
songs,
it tells
Jason.
you how many servings comes with it. Hey, honey, talking. Shh. And then it tells you how many containers that counts as. He would like this balloon blown up.
I would like mine too.
So then, again, you just go to all the different recipes. These muffins, one is a purple and a blue. And it just is nice because it's those mixed recipes that you're not quite sure about, and it has the container count for you, so you don't have to stress about what's in it or what to count it as. So I'm going to throw it back to you, Haley, because my boys are getting a little crazy over here.
Okay, and I'm going to show you guys one more thing on there, and if it'll let me pull it up in just a second. Okay, I'm going to start screen sharing. Maybe. Why can't I see? Hold on. Balloons. Can you guys see my on demand? Okay. I was going to show you guys one more thing on the Fixate. Maybe. That is really cool. And maybe did you already talk about this, Renee? And I was just looking at my phone for a second. The containers video. You did? Okay. That is something I try to make sure my new challengers are aware of, because I think she lays it out really well in the Containers 101 and the Pantry Raid. That's something I think a lot of us don't realize needs to be done before we really want to buckle down and get started, because getting rid of those temptations, we think, oh, we can do this, and then it's like, oh, I think I'm gonna go grab some chips or whatever. So those are 2 videos I think are really cool that they're on there, because I think they just came out with them this spring, maybe early spring, and I really wish I would have had it whenever I started, because I felt like I was trying to navigate it alone, and those videos completely just walk you through it. And so awesome resources on demand. If you don't have a hard copy of the eating plan, I suggest, honestly, if you can, maybe printing it out and getting it bound, just to have that at I don't know, I'm kind of like Renee. I like to touch things. I like pen and paper. I think they're great that they're online, and I can, get to them quickly, send stuff quickly to people. But I do think there's something about having it to hold on to and check things off. Do you guys have any questions? I think most of the people on here have been doing it for a while, and you're probably all pros at it. I'm trying to get myself back into it because I totally put it on the back burner during pregnancy. I tried my best to be mindful, but I definitely, it's hard to get back into that habit. I'm learning again. So, Amy didn't know about the container video. Good. Learned something new. But I hope the call was helpful, and we're recording it, so we will post it to the Challenger group. That way the people that wanted to be on and couldn't be on can go back and watch it. I think it'll be a good video for our newer challengers to watch too.